Americans may be thinking that voting for Joe Biden in November will be a vote against Trump. But maybe it's time to look at things a different way. Namely, if you vote for Biden, what exactly will you be voting for? How will America change? First thing you have to realize is that anything Biden says about being tough on China, about pushing made in America stuff, is a total lie. Biden has spent nearly half a century in politics, including 8 years as vice president, to show us that he was an economic populist suddenly? I don't think so. Well, this latter-day attempt to rebrand himself as some sort of liberal Pat Buchanan on trade and manufacturing is a complete and utter farce. Instead of America first, Biden's policies have always put American workers last. And after Biden's speech yesterday, the day before, come on, you might have been wondering, where have you heard all that before?
When the federal government spends taxpayers' money, we should use it to buy American products and support American jobs.
We'll always live by two simple rules: buy American and hire American.
Well, Trump, of course, sees right through what Biden's trying to do.
He plagiarized from me, but he can never pull it off. He likes plagiarizing.
No, of course, a little joke about Biden's problem with that Neil Kinnock speech all those years ago. Biden's progressive cheerleaders, they know that Trump's full-throated embrace of economic nationalism, it's one of his strongest appeals. Thus, they've tried to co-opt the message.
He's being very intentional about who's been left out of this economy. Right. We are really encouraging everybody and giving them opportunities to participate in this economy. It will be transformative.
Transformative? Any cursory look at Biden's long record demonstrates he's a staunch, unrepentant globalist on trade, on immigration, and of course on foreign affairs. He's been on the opposite side of Trump on every major policy battle. President Biden will install globalists in key positions in the State Department and the Pentagon, taking us back to the Obama days of constantly apologizing to the world for our past sins and giving China and Europe basically whatever they want. Remember back in 2011, Biden was actually rooting on China.
There's a debate here in the United States, and quite frankly throughout most of the West, is whether a rising China was in the interest of the United States and the wider world. As a young member of the Foreign Relations Committee, I wrote and I said, and I believe then what I believe now, that a rising China is a positive development, not only for China, but for America and the world writ large.
just that line alone should completely disqualify him from the presidency. How's that work out for Hong Kong, Joe? Could have been more wrong on more issues? And do not think for a second that things are going to calm down on the domestic front if Biden's elected. The left will be emboldened, not chastened by a Biden win. Retribution will be a dividend for the squad in the Biden era. And it's just going to get worse. They don't want you to worry about cancel culture. In fact, AOC says, check your privilege tweeting, the term cancel culture comes from entitlement. Odds are you're not actually canceled. You're just being challenged, held accountable, or unliked. Well, tell that to those who lost their livelihoods. We're going to talk to a man who's being subject to the cancel culture in just a few moments. And if you think it's all bad now, just wait until a Biden administration. If anyone, including any company, does something the left doesn't like, they'll come under DOJ scrutiny. And the Bill of Rights is not going to do much good for you. After all, that was written by a bunch of old dead white slaveholders. Moments like the Tea Party will be treated, I don't know, like moments for domestic terrorists. Black Lives Matter, they'll be treated like heroes. Religious people, at least the ones that don't go along with the radical left, will be investigated for hate crimes. Heck, Biden already threatened to rescind the Obamacare exemption for groups like Little Sisters of the Poor after that Supreme Court decision the other day. And homeschoolers, forget it. You're going to face such strict controls, you'll just go back to public school. College and high school sports teams, they're going to be in trouble. And media companies, they'll face pressure by the FCC and other regulatory bodies. And if you take the Biden administration to court because you want to challenge any of this stuff, Well, you're going to find that it has at least 5 justices in Washington to act as its rubber stamp. Meanwhile, laws that are on the books that they don't like will become meaningless. No more enforcement of the immigration or drug laws. Bienvenidos a todos. Of course, crime will rise as cops are taken off the streets and replaced with left-wing social workers and therapists. Biden has already moved away and way, way, way to the left on that issue.
The last thing you need is an up-armored Humvee coming into a neighborhood. It's like the military invading. They don't know anybody. They become the enemy.
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. And good luck complaining about any of this to the press. After all, they've nothing more at this point than the propaganda arm of the DNC. If Biden actually wins, they'll work even harder to protect him.
There is no scenario where Donald Trump even competes with Joe Biden, who drips empathy.
We were talking about this again recently on TV with a different speech, and you point out, just the empathy, the Biden empathy.
We really heard from him. He was trying to say to people, look, I see you. I'm feeling your pain.
But wait, I know what you're saying. How could the wealthy actually support Biden if it's a virtual certainty that crime will skyrocket, taxes will go? Well, come on, the rich are always going to figure a way to, squirrel away their money, and they're always going to figure out a way to be shielded by private security and their gated communities. That's why. That's the way it works in countries like Mexico and in Guatemala. And that's where we're headed under Biden. For a long time, many of you have been very happy that you don't have to live in left-wing cities like Baltimore or New York or San Francisco. But in just a few months, you may find out exactly what it's like. Finally, let's not forget that a vote for Biden is a vote to erase our history, our national memory, and our traditions. Which brings us to the riots. Most people on the right, they're frustrated about the ongoing destruction, but for now it's mostly contained in areas where the rioters feel safe. The mayors of Chicago and St. Louis are never going to arrest and prosecute these thugs. Yet that's only true so long as Republicans hold the White House. If the left gets control of the DOJ, the rioters are going to feel safe from prosecution almost anywhere. In fact, they'll know that anyone who interferes with them will risk federal investigation. Biden won't have to order people to do much of anything like, blow up the Mount Rushmore? No, he's not going to do that. He just won't do anything to stop or punish the folks who try to. As Nancy Pelosi says,
I don't care that much about statutes.
Shouldn't that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night throwing it into the harbor?
People will do what they do.
Being a citizen is a duty, and duties aren't always easy or fun to carry out. Well, these days, when there's so much hatred toward our country and the media, I know it's really tempting to tune it all out and say, I'm not looking at it, hide our heads under the covers, and wait for the storm to pass. But this isn't a storm, and it's not going to pass. It's a vicious and well-funded movement to take away your power and your money and give them to people who want to crush you. But patriotic Americans are starting to resist this unconstitutional series of edicts and actions of their mayors and their governors. And young and old alike must respectfully refuse to submit to this new normal that keeps us out of work, out of churches, and out of schools. We have to teach the Democratic Party once and for all that attacking us and aligning with the radical socialist fringe is going to cost them dearly. And we can absolutely do this. We've beaten the left many times before, and we can do so again. In November, a vote for Trump is a vote to preserve the thing that makes America the best country on earth, our freedom. And that's the angle.